Welcome to the most passionate live show about space
Glad
on
you
the
said
internet.
about space.
On the internet, yeah, because we can't compete with Gary Vee. I'm just telling you that right now. If we just can't. In the passion department, I think Gary Vee may have us
probably.
up one.
Oh well.
We are Benjamin, Carrie, and Higginbotham. We are your Spacevidcasters, and you have joined us for what is bound to be one of our most mediocre shows ever. This is going to be baseline right across the board.
That's
just
terrible.
Just straight across.
Terrible.
Well, no, the real show you want to be at is actually next week. So just go home now. Just stop watching.
At least it's not on a different podcast.
You still watch this
Actually,
podcast.
John Cleese is doing something on a different channel. It's awesome.
Next week we have got live via Skype, Cy Liebergott.
There you go.
Jeez, hard to say. He will be joining us. He was one of the Ecomms for the Apollo era, and he was Ecomm during Apollo 13. So you can see October 23rd at 2 o'clock a.m. Coordinated Universal Time. And right there on the screen you can see a URL to CG Publishing, which is Apogee Books, and you can buy his book, Apollo Ecomm. And you give it a quick read before the show and come up with some really good questions because we have this awesome integrated chat room at the bottom. So we ask your questions via the live chat room. I'm ignoring you all now, but live chat room and via Twitter. So when he's on live, you can ask whatever you want. I mean, he was there in the thick of it.
Right, and it is a relatively quick read. There's lots of different pictures. Well, no, but I mean,
it's a picture book. No,
but I mean, like Buzz Aldrin's new book is like this, you know. And so this is a little bit. It's a little bit thinner. There's lots of different pictures, but he writes really well. He's very engaging and he's very down to earth. He's not very clinical about the whole thing. It's sort of like, and then I thought, oh crap. You know, so it's
actually he captured me in the first. I don't want to say it was the first paragraph, but certainly within the first chapter, just the way because he kind of bounces through time in a very unique way, and it's a really interesting way of storytelling. And I thoroughly enjoyed the book, and I'm excited to have him on next week. So check us out next week. For now, if you've only got 1 hour that you can spend, do it next week, not this week. I'm just kidding. So this is going to be an action-packed epicsode, and we're going to have to start out this week with some space news. Space news.
What are you doing?
I'm doing the hand thing.
We don't do that anymore.
Well, no, but just because we have the open.
We don't do that anymore.
First up, NASA cutting jobs to get to the moon. This is an interesting one because the Augustine Commission's come out and they've basically said you guys don't have enough money to fulfill your vision of going to the moon, so they're cutting jobs.
This is your plan. This is your money. Ready, go.
We'll work for Moonshot.
That is like the best ever.
I had fun making that graphic. I'll tell you that much right now.
That's just, I love that. I want one of those. Like, I want a picture of that in my room. Oh man.
But they're doing that because they think they can save. Well, they need to have an additional $3 billion, I believe is the number.
Yeah.
Billion with a B.
So we're just gonna cut everybody, and then hopefully we'll get there someday.
No, it's not that bad. But this will save 1.5 to 2 billion, which gets them a sizable way there. Now, is it official? I mean, are they officially cutting these jobs, or are they just considering cutting these jobs? They haven't
as much as
officially.
20% of the employee costs of the manned space program, including jobs at Houston Johnson Space Center.
So
the
Mission Control Center will have 2 people in it now, just running between all the consoles.
Well, and Edge and U2, or Edge and Bono, so it's okay.
on the
They'll help.
screens, yeah.
Right.
So, I mean, that's pretty much the extent of that.
Yeah, right? I mean, there's not a whole lot of story to that necessarily, but at the same time, I have to say that I'm glad that they're still trying. They're still trying to get to the moon, however they can do it.
Well, yeah, it's in their charter now, isn't it? I mean, the Bush administration said you are to go to the moon.
Do or die.
And they have to do that, whether that's Ares Direct or some other alternate vehicle, you know. It is what it is. And I guess pretty much what the Augustine Commission did say was your budget is smaller than your vision. So you're gonna have to do something about that. And I don't know. We'll see, right? Time will tell.
It'll be interesting.
Sparkware, Apollo era, 400,000 jobs. Orion, 2 guys. Launch it. Hit the button.
This is 2009. Everything is done on computers. All right? No more slide rules.
Actually, you know, I don't want to linger on this topic for too long, but Hentner brings up a really good point. Back in the Apollo era, it was a bunch of 20-something guys. You go in there now, and it's a bunch of...
60 to 80?
Well, no, not that old, but, you know, quite a bit older. And you got the young, spunky kids going to companies like SpaceX.
Right.
So, I mean, I don't want to belittle the work that these guys do. It's incredibly important, and their jobs are all very valuable, but this may not necessarily be a bad thing for them. It may force them to think a little more agile.
Yeah, I mean, it could be trimming the fat a little bit. It could be, you know, it could be pruning back, as it were, to flourish better, more,
all of the Spacevidcasters who work for NASA, who are in our chat room and join our live and on-demand shows, obviously you can't get laid off. Nope, you're valuable. So because you watch our show.
We'll tell them. We'll let them know.
We'll let them. Just tell them Ben and Carrie Ann said
Actually, I
good.
think we've got a lot more KSC people than JSC people.
Yeah, we probably do. Well, we got a little bit of both. The Regulus Challenge is coming up this weekend, actually. NASA's Centennial Program's Regulus Excavation Challenge. I think that's how you say all of that.
Regolith excavation.
So lunar regolith is the top soil on the moon.
Yeah, regolith.
Moon dust.
Moon dust. Regolith is soil. So we have regolith here on Earth. There's a regolith on Mars. There's regolith just about everywhere. It's pretty much just that top soil layer. But most people, when they say regolith or they hear regolith, they only think of the dirt or soil or dust that's on the moon.
Not true at all.
And that's actually a bit of a misnomer. Although most people, like I said, when they say it, that's what they mean anyway.
Most people have no idea what you mean when you say regolith.
Well,
most people have never heard the word regolith in their life.
Yeah, but they just smile and nod anyway.
Oh, yes!
Yeah.
Can't just say moon dirt. No, regolith.
No, yeah, regolith. But yeah, so the thing is that NASA's trying to figure out how to do mining efficiently and cheaply on the moon. And so, of course, they've turned to people outside of NASA to try and figure that out for them.
I think they're working with the X Prize Foundation somehow on this, aren't they?
No.
No, not at all? No. I thought Centennial Challenges utilized X Prize.
Not always, no.
Oh, never mind. Well, then.
You're awesome, though.
It's still a prize concept.
Yes, and all of the money is $750,000, but it's split up between like a first, second, and third prize. The whole thing is you have to build. Yeah, no. These aren't rockets. These are little rovers and diggers, I guess.
Yep. Actually, we've got a daily on this exact topic.
It's kind of cool.
If you go back a couple days, I think it's called NASA's Regolith Challenge or something like that.
Big surprise.
And we've got a bunch of the different rovers inside that daily, so you can see a bunch of these different things. Some of them are kind of cool. Here's the thing with Regolith, though. It's really, really sharp. It's like sand. It's sand essentially, but it hasn't been worn down by thousands of years of or millions of years of the oceans rubbing up against it and kind of sanding it, making it a really what am I trying to say? Polished. Thank you. Words failed me. Go English. So it's like really tiny shards of glass sitting on the moon, I guess, for lack of a better. Just really sharp stuff. So when you try to mine it, it gets in everything. It starts just getting in seams and in airlocks and hatches, and it rips stuff apart. And that was including like astronauts' lungs. You'd get an Apollo astronaut, they'd be on the moon, they walk outside for a bunch, they go back inside, they sleep for a little bit, they put their spacesuit back on, but now they've pushed all that regolith up in the air, and lots of arm movements. But
one of the things that I thought was really cool is that they've had this excavation challenge for a couple of years now, and
at least since 2007.
Finally, they got a permanent regolith sandbox at Ames, I believe, in California. And so when teams want to try out their machines, because they've been just trying out their machines on regular dirt, regular sand, which is a good simulation, but not...
Good start, but not
quite. It's just not there.
Sharp enough.
They can reserve some time in the Regulus sandbox, which I think is kind of a cool thing.
Well, what's fun, go back watch that daily, because you can see some of these rovers, and you can see some that have like these exposed chains that go right by the regolith. And I'm just waiting because I'm waiting for that just to get ripped to shreds by underestimating how insanely sharp this stuff is.
Well, and the other issue is they only have 30 minutes to do, is it 50 kilograms? They have to go
30 or 50, I don't
something
know.
like that, 50 kilograms, and bring it back and dump it in a specific spot in 30 minutes, and they only have one chance to do it. So if they don't make it this year, they have to wait till next year to try again, as
con-
opposed to like NGLLC, which, you know, Maston is going 3 different times.
Right.
You know, they've got multiple times within a time period. Not so with this particular challenge.
Alice Fan is asking why it's so sharp. Well, it's unlike the oceans here. There's not been anything to actually polish it up. So on Earth, we've had the ocean sitting there and moving against sand, and it's been rubbing up against other things, and so then it just becomes polished. And now, still imagine when you've got sand in your hand, it still feels very coarse and very, very rough. So,
right,
and
but when you look at it underneath a telescope is basically what we're talking about.
But now imagine that sand never getting to that level and just being insanely sharp little itty-bitty razor blades everywhere. That's kind of what this stuff is. But it's not all bad because He3 is in this stuff, helium-3, so that could essentially solve the world energy crisis if we can figure that out. A lot of variables there.
Right.
We can use it for, I believe we can use it for, I've heard both sides of this, where you can help to use it to help prevent radiation from the sun. I've also heard another side that says Regulus is actually terrible at doing radiation shielding. I'm not sure which side.
The idea that I really like is using the regolith, kind of like the dirt we use here, and making bricks or blocks to make shelters out of it.
Regolith castles. Little regolith castles.
Like regolith igloos. How cool would that be?
Although, right now, today, STS-129, moving along, as it were.
Yes, but that regolith challenge is going on this weekend, so hopefully we'll have an update for you on the next show.
And if you want, I think the X Prize, some of those guys are going to be there, and I believe they're going to be streaming some of it on their live quick channel on the launchpad.xprize.org.
All right, so pay attention to our Spacevidcast Twitter account, so we'll push that out to you, and then hopefully that'll also be on the website as well.
Yeah. STS-129 is in trouble, but not because of the normal shuttle launch issues that we see.
Right, so STS-127 and STS-128 had a lot of those sort of like, this is a GUPIC thing, or oh my god, there's a hurricane, there's lightning, there's all these different issues, right?
Yep. I call it a GUPIC.
I know,
because I think it's funny, but it's a GUP.
Okay, anyhow, but the point is that what's going on with 129 is that somebody's looking at a calendar going, oh man, we just don't have time for this. This isn't going to work. Like many of you guys know, we've gone over this a number of times. So there's only certain times that they can shoot a shuttle up, launch a shuttle is what I'm trying to say.
Next week's show.
Anyway, words.
Way better.
We're going to totally know our words then. But there's only certain times of, they have to go in a particular trajectory. They're going to a specific spot, so they have to go, whatever, and make sure they come back down, all of that stuff. So it's all this math, and you only have certain windows, so you can't just go whenever you gosh darn well please. Well, unfortunately, the next window, there's 2 windows before the end of the year, and the next window that's coming up, there's 2 satellite launches that are already going up, and
meteor shower.
And a meteor shower, right? Then, the next window, there's a Soyuz already docked at the ISS.
And that's a criteria problem, right? You can't have the Soyuz and the shuttle docked at the same time.
Right. So we could break our little treaty or whatever it is. And
well, I think it's a safety thing.
Is it?
Someone in the chat room answered that.
I'm
Why
sure.
can't we have a Soyuz capsule and the space shuttle docked at the ISS at the same time? I believe they dock in different locations, so I don't think it's... Yeah, it's a safety thing, but why? Why the safety? What makes that less safe?
It makes it heavier on one side. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. It's a joke. Hello? But then there's also a gigantic meteor shower that's going on, and it's very... This is kind of a big one. It's sort of evil. It's short. The one in November is much longer. It's like 4 or 5 days, and the one in December is like a day or a day and a half kind of thing. But they're expecting everything to be really intense, really big, and it could impact the shuttle, which we all know, if foam can hurt the shuttle, I think a meteor can hurt the shuttle pretty well.
And actually, Jeff is coming up saying proximity and thrust contaminants from the... so pretty much when you undock, you have just stuff flying, or
right, you don't want
stuff flying everywhere in space.
More stuff hitting other people. Don't want to do that. So unfortunately, it looks like there's a distinct possibility we won't be able to get 129 up this year.
That's a bummer. However, if we can, we'll carry it here on Spacevidcast.
And if we can, there's a NASA Tweetup going on for 129. How's that for a segue?
Wow, you just jumped to item 6 in the timeline, totally messing everything up.
Yeah, I know, except that it goes
It was
together.
a good segue. It was a good segue, but Tweetup, so that there's a different Tweetup graphic you'll have to. It has a bird. Look at that! We got Nico on the shuttle. Check that out.
How awesome is that? I think that's so cute.
We can't attend the NASA Tweetup.
No.
So unfortunately, we won't be able to make it. But you guys, which is why we're telling you, because otherwise we wouldn't tell you and we just go. We're evil that way. I'm just being honest with you. I'm just saying. They've got 100 seats available.
They do.
And it opens up this October 16th, is it?
Yes, which for those of you watching us live would be tomorrow. For those of you watching us on demand, it was probably yesterday or a week ago.
Well, if you're watching us live in Coordinated Universal Time, it is today.
Anyway, point is that yes, October 16th is when they open the door. The first 100 people that are qualified, to be there, they are not providing jack anything. They're not providing you with a trip there. They are not providing you with hotel. They are not providing you with food. They are not providing you with water.
They're just giving you the honor of being in their presence.
Yes, and they are also not providing you with 2 tickets per person. So if Ben was to get in and me not get in, he go and I not.
Yep. So anyone who wants to go, you've got 100 seats available for when they open this thing up.
Which is nothing.
And you can find it. It's on nasa.gov/what? What's the
I'll
URL
find
on
it.
that?
But
you go to the website, and once the registration opens up, go and hit that. So any of our Spacevidcasters that live in Florida, maybe BZ Wing, if he's watching. Uncle's not in Florida, is he?
No. He's in Illinois.
Yeah, but there's the URL, nasa.gov/collaborate/tweetup. I think it'd be kind of cool. I hope one of our Spacevidcasters is able to go. And if you are, let me know. I'll give you the Spacevidcast account. You can tweet on our account and make it sound like we're official and really cool and really there and stuff.
You'll get a lot closer. I mean, you'll be on the grounds. You will get a tour of KSC, is my understanding. So you'll be treated a little bit nicer once you actually get on the property. But up until that point, they really don't care.
Exactly.
And should 129 not go that day, if it goes like within the next 24 hours, you're still invited back. But if it doesn't go to like next week or something like that, they kind of are like, and we're just gonna skip the Tweetup thing. So it's a little iffy, unfortunately. And again, they will not reimburse you for any of this stuff. So this is all your own money of getting down there, staying there, eating there, peeing there, the whole 9.
Sparkware brought up an interesting. Could you bring that graphic back up with the bird? Brought up an interesting point. An owl and a bat die when they sit on the shuttle launch, but Twitterbird doesn't. The reason is, if you look, the Twitterbird has a helmet.
He does. He's got the whole outfit.
He's in a spacesuit.
That's
why.
He has a spacesuit and a space helmet.
Yep. So
for space.
Miko. That's Miko. For those who
Miko.
don't know, who is the official emblem of the Space Tweeps Society. So there you go. So Miko's safe because Miko's in a spacesuit.
Yes.
That's why Miko is safe.
And he's so cute.
We did another really cool daily, and actually this has a beautiful graphic. I really like this graphic. It's called Alice.
Exactly why we're doing this.
Well, no, I'm a big advocate of new propulsion methods for space travel, and a lot of people are like, "Well, you just don't understand the blah 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 blah." I'm like, "Well, no. I mean, we're stuck with technology
that's what I say all the time.
Yeah, just blah 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 blah. We're stuck with technology that's quite old.
Can't wait for them to translate that. Go on.
Exactly.
Not just transcribe, but translate.
Exactly. So for all of you watching right now on demand, hit the closed caption button, rewind a little bit, and see what the text at the bottom of the screen says. I'm curious to see what that comes back with.
Just be like jamming on the keyboard. Anyway, go on. Sorry.
The transcribers
They're
are thanking
hating us
me.
right now.
Alice is a frozen aluminum ice. It's already said frozen. Propellant. It's much like a solid rocket booster, but it's environmentally friendly, and I believe it will give us additional power.
Yeah.
We think it will actually be more powerful. Check that out. So it's aluminum and ice, essentially, and it stands to be pretty cool. Once again, we've got a daily on this, so go back earlier this week, check out the Alice video. You can see some of the test fires from this thing, and at the very end of the video, the rocket launch that goes up is actually using the Alice propellant.
Right, and it's only a 9-foot rocket. I know that it's kind of hard to tell the perspective.
The scale is kind of hard.
Right, but that's only a 9-foot rocket, and you just see it take off into nowhere.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Really amazing.
So Alice could be the first step into doing new propulsion. Now, I'm going to throw, this is a sideball weird one from you. This is something I saw on current.com, and how crazy it is, I'm not sure, but it sounds like with some of the work we're doing with the LHC, not that we're doing it, that's CERN.
No, we're doing it.
It's not, that's all CERN.
It's in our backyard.
Yeah, actually, we got one. We got a mini version.
Little one.
Mini version.
Yes.
With all the work on the LHC, they're starting to bring up some old theories that say, well, if this actually works, and I haven't done enough research to speak intelligently on this yet, so I could be.
So glad you're bringing it up.
Oh yeah. This is gonna.
Thanks for that,
I'm gonna have the
Ben.
rocket scientists be like, you idiot! But no, they think that this could eventually lead to hyperspace travel.
Alice could?
No, not Alice. The CERN LHC, because we're talking about propulsion. So I made the leap to LHC propulsion, hyperspace.
And
propulsion.
I really like peanut butter with banana sandwiches.
All right, fine.
That was a little, come on.
It wasn't that random. Propulsion. All right.
Where we're going, we don't need roads.
Really? Back to the Future reference?
Yes.
Oh, man.
Right. Anyway, but so the thing, a lot of people have said, well, yeah, we've had aluminum and water propellants. What's the big deal? This is actually nanoparticle aluminum.
And nano makes it cool.
They're only like 80 nanometers in diameter. I mean, it's you can't even see it, all right? And they make it into a paste, and then they freeze it, and that whole thing. And it does work a lot like the solid rocket boosters that we already have, but it reacts much faster and apparently much hotter. And the water keeps it from, or the oxygen and hydrogen in the water, because that's what water is, reacts with the aluminum until all of the aluminum is spent. So, like you were saying, it's environmentally friendly. There's little to no anything that comes out of there, which is really impressive.
Of course, the downside of these solid fuels is that they're not, unlike a liquid fuel, they're non-controllable. So, like the space shuttle main engines, you light them up, there's a problem, you shut them back off. I think when you light up Alice, you're going to have the same issue with the SRBs, where you light it up and you're committed, you're going at that point. It'd be kind of nice if we could have like a solid fuel or a much more economic fuel, or a fuel that you can pack into a tighter space, so bring less fuel with you with more power, that you can control a little bit better. I think that'd be a better way. That's
Although it is kind of nice to get, it's relatively stable. Like before you set it off, because it's frozen like that and it only reacts with the liquid part of it.
You know, one thing that was brought up in the comments for that particular daily was, okay, epic fail though, they're in Florida. If they have to freeze it, does it have to stay frozen the whole time?
Okay, hi, don't we already have frozen stuff in Florida now?
Well, yeah, it's cryogenically frozen fuel, but I mean, what's going to happen is... Yeah,
much? Challenger O-ring ice, what?
No, totally different. I mean, this is...
I mean, it's, thank you, Locks. We clearly have ways to keep stuff cold now. I don't see what the big deal is. Yeah, but that's a cryogenically
frozen fuel that then boils off into a gas. This would just like drip off into an ooze on the ground. I mean, it just go... Right? I mean, this is not going to turn into a gas when it unfreezes. It's going to turn into goop and drip down inside the...
It'll react, actually.
When it unfreezes? Well, that's even worse. Right now, when it starts to heat up, it just gets thrown off as a gas. If this starts to heat off, it's going to launch on its own?
All right. You guys...
That's bad! All right. We'll move on. It was brought up in the comments. I didn't have a good answer. I thought it was a good point.
We keep stuff cold now. I don't see the problem.
But we don't really keep it cold. It actually does heat up and then boil off. That's what the gas is.
Yeah.
New ISS commander.
Yep.
I'm giving this one to you.
Oh, well, thanks for that. Frank de Winne is the new ISS commander. And the reason that we're...
That's a creepy picture.
You know, this poor guy, I mean, he really does. He looks better than that. If you guys see, like, the YouTube...
I'm sorry, Frank. I really am.
Yeah,
it was the best picture they had.
I know. If you guys see the video of YouTube's Bono and The Edge speaking to the guys on the ISS and Nicole, he looks a lot better than that. I promise you he does. But the whole reason that this is significant is because it's the very first time that an ESA astronaut, so not a Russian space agency astronaut, not a NASA space astronaut, but an ESA astronaut is running the ISS. Because somebody was like, well, big deal, he's like Dutch or something. Haven't we had one of them before? Well, yeah, but he was with either the Russian space agency or the American space agency. This is the first time that ESA has had kind of control. ESA, the European Space Agency.
Going, we control the ISS now. That's what's going on at ESA right now.
Yeah, because that's what they do. Those silly Europeans. Yeah, ESA is the European Space Agency. Sometimes in America, people have been saying the ESA, but they pronounce it ESA like we pronounce NASA, as opposed to the NASA. So.
Anyhow.
Yeah. And he's not French. So there's that. So that it's kind of a cool thing. It's nice to see the progression that, you know, the old school, the old boys aren't like trying to still keep control over, well, we have all these parts, so you can't control stuff. You know, it's nice that that's finally being an open door.
Then we're going to go back to ESA and be like, hey, we got this ISS, you want to buy it? And finally,
since you know so much about it.
Virgin Galactic, because they're just doing whatever they can at this point to launch something, anything, although this doesn't really help them launch. They're looking to add satellites to their mix. Now, we kind of knew this at ISDC 09. They talked about it a little bit.
Right.
And I still think their logo looks like an eyeball.
It does look like an
I
eyeball.
think that's supposed to be a solar system.
A nebula?
Yeah, exactly. But I think it looks like an eyeball.
Yeah, a lot of nebulas look like eyeballs.
Well, actually, yeah, they do.
Yeah, so good for them.
But they're going to be launching, in addition to humans, into space at $200,000 per seat. They're looking to launch satellites as a secondary. Well, probably not the same time as humans. I think it would probably.
Wouldn't that be awesome? Don't mind that turbulence.
Oh, it's so cramped in here. Can we get the satellite out?
No room for luggage, ma'am. We have to have a satellite on board.
But yeah, they're looking to add satellites in there, and they got additional funding, like an additional 100 and some odd million, 130 million or something like that.
Kind of like when you want to change the windows in your house, but you go for the energy efficient ones, you get like that kickback.
Yeah.
Like that.
So they got an additional kick in funds for that. Who knows? Because they were supposed to be flying by now.
Yes,
simply
they
put,
were.
we were supposed to have humans in space through Virgin Galactic by now. Now, they had some setbacks, obviously. They had the rocket accident. And, space travel's hard. You can't just,
It's a lot like brain surgery.
I actually, there are a lot of people in the chat room. We actually argue late nights in the live chat room, because the live chat room is available 24/7 at spacevidcast.com/live. And we will argue. And I actually think Virgin Galactic will fly humans into space in 2010. They may not be paying customers, but I think they'll be humans. I think we're going to have drop tests and actual flights in 2010. I think they're a lot closer than we think they are. That's based on no inside knowledge whatsoever and a gut feeling. We all know how my gut feelings go, because every time I have a gut feeling that a shuttle launch is going to go, it inevitably is delayed. So
he's always right about those burgers for some reason. It's amazing.
Burger? What?
Anyway, go on.
So who knows what's really going to happen? But based on, they've got White Knight 2 flying right now, which is the mothership. And my understanding is they've got Spaceship 2. People have seen Spaceship 2. It needed paint and it needed a rocket. Kind of important, I understand. It needed the rocket installed. But it was fairly well done. Well, that says to me they're going to be ready to start testing this thing, because they don't want to delay anymore. So I think 2010 is going to be the year. And I've said this for a while. 2010 is a tipping year in space. So anyhow, in addition to humans, satellites, be pretty cool to drop the cost of bringing a satellite into orbit from 100 million to 1 million or so.
If anything, Spaceport America is coming right along. Right along. Up Aerospace / Lockheed Martin have actually been launching some stuff from there. They've been doing some launch tests, and that have been relatively successful. Although Lockheed Martin has kind of just been like, I need to enter my name on a pseudonym. Let us call me Notheed Martin. Yeah, so they don't want anyone to know. God forbid something bad should happen. But they have been doing these tests. Some people have been calling them mystery tests. But they're just doing some launch tests at the New Mexico Spaceport America that have been going really well. So at least there's that, and the construction on that is going really well as far as we know so far. There haven't been any.
Well, they got the
major
runway
issues.
down, or the runway's a good chunk.
Yeah, they're paving out the runway, which is really good. So should Virgin Galactic happen to fly in 2010, they do have a spaceport in America to fly into.
Would they call that by chance Spaceport America?
Yeah, let me think, yeah.
And one other thing before we go into break, one other thing is we've got a daily coming up this next week. It's not out yet. It's going to be, I think, really interesting. Who knows what it'll end up with. But it's going to be about the Falcon 9 and Dragon modules that are being stacked over at the Cape. And that's exciting stuff, because we're talking about Virgin and their ability to bring up satellites. Well,
SpaceX at the Cape.
SpaceX is going to be able to do some pretty amazing stuff once they get Dragon rolling, and looks like they're kind of on track. Although that scheduling stuff that was in the way for 129, I have a nagging suspicion is going to get in the way of SpaceX. Because I think everything's going to shove SpaceX out of the way. Although I don't think they have the same time constraints, because they're not chasing an International Space Station.
Right. Well, and then their launch pad is outside of the thing, right?
No, the launch pad is inside, but their actual complex, their control center, is directly outside, so you don't have to go through the Air Force Base portion.
Well, of course, that'll be in the daily.
When we come back, we're going to be talking about, what are we talking about? Contamination.
Yeah.
Contaminating either foreign alien bodies, bringing our contaminants there and accidentally spurring life on Mars because we visit
Or
Mars.
making them sick.
Or making them
Giving
sick.
them H1N1.
Or reverse, bringing something from Mars back to Earth and making us really, really sick and killing off most of the human population. Stay with us. We'll be right back after this.
Hello and welcome to the Crow River Coffee Company in Watertown, Minnesota. Situated on the bank of the beautiful Crow River, we offer espresso drinks, delicious food, live music, bulk beans, and artisan items. You can see us at crowrivercoffee.com. Thanks!
Human exploration of Mars is different than any mission we've conducted before. During Apollo, the missions were fairly short, 3 days there, 3 days exploring the surface, and 3 days coming back. But with human exploration of Mars, it's much more difficult. It'll take about 6 months for the crew to get out to Mars. That's about what we do on Space Station in a crew rotation mission, so we're learning a lot there. Once crews get to Mars, they'll explore the planet for about 500 days, waiting for the proper alignment between Earth and Mars. And when that alignment occurs, it'll take about another 6 months to come back. So overall, it's about a 2.5-year mission. Again, 6 months out, a year and a half there, and 6 months coming back. Future human exploration of Mars will be a stepwise progression, starting here on Earth analogs, learning how to test systems and how things operate. Constellation systems that we're developing today will feed in very nicely to future human exploration of Mars. Launching the Orion capsule fits in perfectly in terms of delivering crew to low Earth orbit, up to 6 crew. The space station fits in terms of being a very vital test bed for human operations in space. Future systems that we're going to land on the surface of the moon, the habitats, the pressurized rovers, the power systems, all of those elements will be, if not identical, very similar to the systems that we'll actually take to Mars.
We got more on a problem. Okay, listen, you guys. We've lost fuel cell 1.
And you know, one of the things that makes the show possible is Crow River Coffee Company, because we do this in the back of their coffee shop.
Yep.
And they're also gracious enough to allow us to put up a giant 8-foot C-band satellite dish right in their backyard.
Yep.
And as such, we have a coffee of the month every month, which is Sumatra something.
Mandling.
That's the word, sure. And you can get that by going to crowrivercoffee.com and by buying that coffee. And you have to be in the U.S., correct, Kath? You won't ship over the sea. You got to be in the U.S., but you can get that coffee, or you can get our own custom blend, which is the Blast-Off blend for Spacevidcasters. And you usually need it because a lot of these launches happen late at night, and you want to stay awake for it, but you're just...
You can go to crowrivercoffee.com, and then at the top there's a link that says like buy or shop, something along those lines. Yep. And all the coffees are going to be in there. There's also t-shirts in there and some other stuff. The nice thing is that the beans come here green, and Kath actually roasts them here, right up front, in the morning, which is really nice because I get to smell and stuff like that. But yeah, so they're locally roasted. So especially if you live kind of in the area, it's really great. It's as opposed to Starbucks where they get the beans and then they roast them way over there, and then they sit there, and then they get bagged, and then they get shipped, and then they sit on the shelf. This is like it's all roasted. It's small batches, really, really fresh, really, really high quality stuff.
Great coffee, and just specifically,
and we're not just saying that because we're here. Like, it's really good coffee.
Great coffee, and it's, you know, we got the Blast-Off blend for the Space Geek. So if you work for SpaceX or NASA and you want to show off, just pop it right. You know, buy a bag of Blast-Off blend, pop it right on your console, and yeah, you got the crow with the little helmet. It's a lot like Miko, but more crowish. Yeah. And one other thing, before we get into our main topic, really quick, which will be a quick topic this week. Yeah. Next week's show is going to be epic. It's with Cy Liebergott, and who was the Ecomm. You saw a little bit of that in the calendar previous. He was the Ecomm during Apollo 13. Grab his book at cgpublishing.com/books/Ecomm, and Ecomm is eecom.html. Grab that book, and it's a really, really fascinating read. I mean, this is the guy who was there in the thick of it during the Apollo. I mean, he made this stuff happen.
Right.
He helped put men on the moon.
Right. For those of you guys who saw the Apollo 13 movie and were kind of wondering, like, maybe which guy that was, it's Ron Howard's brother. I forget his name, Ronald, I believe. No, because that would be Ron. Anyway, but it's Ron Howard's brother in the movie plays the Psi character. So when they said, Houston, we have a problem, and Capcom says, yeah, hold on a second, let's ask Psi. That's who they're talking about.
He's actually a guy who's
Clint,
like,
thank you.
Yeah, he's the one who says something along the lines of, I want to shut off, valves 1 and 2, and they're like, are you sure? Because that's gonna, we can't go to the moon then. That character, that was him. He's the one who made the decision. He was the one who said, you know what? We can't make it to the moon. We're shutting this thing down now.
Yeah.
That's Psi. He's on our show next week live via Skype. You can ask your questions right here in our chat room via Twitter, via however method you want.
How many packs a day were you smoking that day?
Actually, it's really cool. When you look at some of the images, you see like a pipe on the thing or like a thing of
There's
cigarettes.
like an ashtray like this.
So we're excited to have him on the show. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be epic. Certainly grab that book, made available through Apogee Books. All right, the main topic this week is the contaminants from us, because we're dirty, dirty creatures. And we're talking about going to the moon.
All of our stuff is made in clean rooms. What are you talking about?
We're talking about going to the moon and onto Mars.
Right.
And we're having discussions, is there life on Mars under the surface?
Right.
Bacterial life, not aliens. Crazies, please don't come out.
Right, well, theoretically, wherever we can find water, we can find life, because water can...
Liquid water.
Right, liquid water, sorry. So there's all, and you don't want to come back with a false positive. And oddly enough, I was just watching a CSI episode where this makes exact sense. The problem was, stop. The problem was on CSI that they had some woman's DNA on like 20 different crime scenes, and they couldn't figure out why, because none of it made any sense. And it all comes down to the cotton swabs that they used to swab everything. The woman who was working at the cotton factory was touching it with her bare hands instead of gloves. And so it was her DNA that got onto the cotton swab, so they essentially were contaminated. And then they used those swabs to swab all these other things. So it looks like she's the killer in like 20 different, whatever kind of things. And it's the same concept, that you don't want to go to Mars. You don't want to be like, let me whip out this bag from my pocket, scrape some stuff into it, bring it home, and have them be like, holy crap! Oh my God, there's caterpillars on Mars!
Now, here's what's really interesting. Humans made it to the moon in 1969.
Yes.
When do you think they actually came up with a treaty talking about this stuff?
1982.
1967. It's the
Before we got to the moon, people.
Before we got to the moon, they were talking about treaties to ensure that we don't contaminate places like the moon, and conversely, we don't take something from the moon that shouldn't be on Earth, bring it back to Earth, and wipe out the human population accidentally. Actually, it was brought up in the break. We don't need healthcare then. Population's wiped out. So it's interesting that they thought about this back in 1967, before we ever even made it to the moon.
Right, actually, it's only a decade after Sputnik went up, and I think that's kind of what started the ball rolling, was sort of like, hey, if we're throwing stuff up there, what happens when it comes down? And I think at this point, they're actually more concerned about the back contamination than they are the forward contamination.
I think we should be equally concerned about either, because when we do forward contamination and we say, oh, hey, look, we found life on Mars, well, what if it's something we brought to Mars?
Right.
And now what if there was existing life on Mars? We bring new life on Mars and totally mess with our ecosystem.
Right.
Like we can't even bring fruits from one continent to another without freaking getting through borders and whatnot and everything.
Right.
So imagine bringing bacteria to another planet. What would happen then?
Right, exactly. But right now, the big deal is that they're more concerned about, all right, so these probes and these satellites and, whatever, all this stuff is going out there, and then eventually it's coming back. What is it bringing back with them? There's
knowledge of the future.
There's always there's storms, there's meteorites, things bounce off of planets and what have you, and then they come closer to us, and maybe they come into our atmosphere, and there's stuff that we can't even comprehend, we can't even take control over, and say, oh no, well, we'll just not have that thing come back into our, you know what I'm saying?
So the flip side of the coin is, at what level do we, how much do we have to prevent this from happening, right?
Right.
Because contaminants are in everything. It's in absolutely everything we touch.
Right. If you live in a bubble, you'll die.
So at what point do we say we just have to move forward with the program? And actually, that's where I'd love to hear you guys, the comments from you guys in the Spacevidcast comments. Go to spacevidcast.com if you're watching this on YouTube, or add it to the YouTube comments. I mean, wherever, we'll get them somewhere. And what do you think about contaminants cross-directionally? Is this something we should be worried about for the moon, or should we just say, you know what, screw it. Whatever is on the moon, we're smarter than, so we dominate, or no, the moon, Mars, we're smarter than, we dominate Mars, bacteria doesn't matter. Because we kind of think that here on Earth, right? We don't go out of our way to protect bacteria on Earth. Why would we go out of our way to protect bacteria on Mars?
Right, but I think we also kind of consider, well, it's already living in our ecosystem, so BFD.
Well, and then we destroy it.
Well, whatever.
Exactly, right? So if it's getting in the way of human exploration of Mars, should we just say, you know what, screw it, let's just go destroy it? Or should we what level of precaution should we take before it becomes unreasonable?
Right.
Where is that? And what about the back contamination? Should we really be worried about that? Because most things, not everything, but most things will die in space.
Right.
So.
But not everything, and that's the point.
Yeah, actually, something was brought up earlier
Like
in the
the
chat room where
microbes are
one of the
not
surveyors brought something back, I think maybe on Apollo 12, something. And Sparkware brings up interesting point, you know, diseases moving through continents. That's been an issue here on Earth, and that could certainly cross-planetary contamination could be an issue too.
Not to mention there's the other kind of quote-unquote back contamination, sort of like for those of you guys who live in the US and were watching the very, very terrible and now canceled show Defying Gravity, they were hitting every single one of the planets in the solar system. So what happens when you go to Mars and maybe you accidentally pick up something and then you go to Venus and you drop it off? Right? Like, how is that going to screw up stuff? Or maybe how would that help it? What was the Star Trek movie where they eco the whole thing, Genesis?
Oh, the Genesis planet?
Yeah, that one.
That started with Star Trek.
Star
Trek 4.
You know what I'm saying, right? Like you insert this kind of stuff that will actually change the whole.
Star Trek 3.
All right. Well, now okay.
Star Trek 2.
Wrath
It's
of
Wrath of
Khan.
Khan. What is it? Oh well.
Anyhow, but that's my point, is that maybe, you know, we're so worried about it, we're so concerned about it, kind of like a parent of a brand new kid of like, oh my God, make sure you wash your hands before you touch my child. And then by the time they're on their third kid and he's sucking on rocks in the garden, they're like, whatever, they're kids, they'll get over it. You know, germs are good for them.
Leave your comments on YouTube, leave your comments on Spacevidcast. Love to know what you think because, I mean, this is going to change how we do space exploration. You know, one other thing that we could really use your help with is Spacevidcast is becoming more popular, speaking of comments. And, you know, last week we had over 100,000 views in our channel, which is great. We love the views. Unfortunately, it was a lot with the L-Cross videos. And for some reason, and I do not know what it is, L-Cross brought out the crazies. And we're here to edutain you guys. We're going to educate, we're going to entertain, we're going to have some fun. I mean, this stuff is fun, it's great stuff. But it's really hard to edutain when you got crazy people talking about us bombing aliens on the moon and spreading misinformation on our own channel. And we try to do our best to combat that in the comment section and reply with statistical data.
Lunartics. That's good.
Lunartics,
like
exactly. But what would really be great is if you guys, as the Spacevidcast community, who understand there is no giant conspiracy. We're not bombing the moon. This is scientific research. There are going to be crazies we just can't get rid of. The conspiracy theorists, okay, that's fine. But we don't want them infecting, cross-contaminating, the people who really could be inspired by this stuff. And if you could just help out and calmly, politely, don't be jerks about it, but just post factual information on YouTube, on the Spacevidcast chat room, post your comments, be good about it, be humane and civil about it, because if you start being like, you're an idiot, then you just lost all credibility with everyone at that point, and that's bad. But if you come back and say, well, actually, this is why, and if more people say, actually, no, this makes sense, this is why we're doing it, than say, we're bombing the moon, the aliens are going to bomb us back, then people will listen to the sane people as opposed to the crazy people. But when the channel is overwhelmed with crazy people, everyone starts listening to the crazy people.
Unfortunately, the squeaky wheel gets the oil, or the grease.
Right. And actually, we'd love those comments everywhere. We're currently on current.com, so which is a television station and a website. We're posting all of our dailies, and we're trying to get these up there, but these aren't quite their format. You know, vote those up, comment on the videos, get some conversations going about this. If people start talking, you don't have to agree with us, but talk with us. You know, start a conversation, get a debate going, get a good, intelligent debate going, and you know, get people talking about this stuff. Because the more people talk about it and become aware of things that are going on the moon, you know, people were like, well, why didn't we know? Well, we need time to stop NASA from bombing the moon. Well, this isn't something that just happened overnight.
July. Like, hello?
And that's just when it launched. I mean, this thing was years in planning.
Oh, obviously.
So they just don't know. So.
Right.
You can help. You can do your part by commenting, by helping spread this stuff, be it a Spacevidcast video, an X Prize, one of the Launchpad videos, any of the Regulus or X Prizes, or the NGLLC, GLXP, all that stuff. Just get it out there. We're passionate about it. I know you're passionate about it. Spread it. All right. And end of my soapbox. I think you guys can
really
help.
quickly, I want to add to that, though. Keep in mind that as we grow, obviously, there are more and more people. There's going to be children, there's going to be kids, you know, 13-year-olds who don't understand, who haven't ever heard of this before. We talk a lot about NASA, but that's because we're in the U.S. So there's going to be people outside of the U.S. who aren't as familiar with what NASA is doing, and so it might be the first time that they've heard of these things, or it might be the first time that they're seeing these things.
Actually, 40% of our viewers come from outside the U.S.
Oh, 40%. I mean, that's huge, you guys. And not everyone is as versed as you are, or we are, or I'm sure more you than we. So try to be patient with them, try to understand. If they're idiots, you know, they're idiots, and then ignore them and blow them off.
But most are not idiots.
Most
are just
ignorant. Don't understand.
They're just ignorant. Ignorance can be fixed. All right, anyhow. End of that lecture and soapboxy type thing. Comment!
Transcription would be awesome too.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sorry, transcribers. You know, and also one last thing. Sorry, we did a new graphic format for the dailies. Love to know what you guys think about that. So we got new graphics and kind of a new look where the plasma's taking up the whole frame. I'm not sure if I like it or not, so some feedback would be great. Constructive criticism.
I think my nose looks too big.
I can't fix that. Like I said, next week, Sai's going to be on the air. It's going to be epic. It's going to be awesome, and I hope all of you will be joining us live. Definitely grab his book before then so that you can kind of read up on what his life was like.
Follow along and know what we're talking about.
Yeah, he had an interesting childhood, a rough and interesting childhood, which really prepped him for the Apollo 13 mission, I think at least. And it is a very well-written book. You guys are going to love it. It is worth every penny. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you next Friday at 2 o'clock a.m. Coordinated Universal Time. That's Thursday nights in the United States. That's 7 o'clock p.m. Pacific Time, 9 o'clock p.m. Central Time, 10 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. And I'm going to forewarn you guys right now, in November, early November, daylight savings time, for not everyone, for a good chunk of you will change. This show does not honor daylight savings time, which means if you change your clocks back, right? If you change your clocks back, this show will begin an hour earlier than what you're used to in early November. I'm giving you fair warning starting in this show. We don't honor daylight savings time, which means this show will be 1 hour earlier if you change your clocks. If you don't change your clocks, because believe it or not everyone does daylight savings time, then you have nothing to fear. It's at the exact same time all year long. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you next week.